to continue my effort to reach you all in respect of ethical financial management, justifiable financial accounting system, and conscientious business practice. Again, I would like to recapitulate some basic or rudimentary aspects of business which are very important, which are exactly stupendous by nature, but in our day-to-day business life, we see that some business people think of that unethical practices or unconscientious practices only give boost to the business to have more profit. But exactly what I feel when I was graduating and I was also working with a private manufacturing concerns, which the practices of accountancy as well as management should be very meticulous, justifiable, conscientious and ethical. First of all, our business people couldn't give justice to the business, in which way they cannot segregate the things, what is their own case or personal case and what is the business case, number one. Number two, they cannot give justice to the business in respect of accounts, no matter whether the financial accounting is being practiced or is being kept in a book meticulously as we are reading now, or as the usual commerce students as well as management students pursue. But I have seen the business people or successful business people in our own periphery, even in a very small township also, those who are very meticulous in their practices, particularly to segregate the things and to give justice to their business in a meticulous way, they prosper and they succeed. So it's very important to know almost all the aspects of the business which attracts, which needs our focus at par. Number one, when we are measuring the profit or loss of a business after completion of one financial year or accounting year, what usually is done is finalization of accounts, and in the practices we do trading account. Before that we can do our manufacturing account, then trading account, profit and loss account and balance sheets, through which we can measure whether the performance of the business is good or bad and up to what extent we have improved our practices, and what is the maximization of assets and what is the magnitude of our profiteering, almost all the things. So in our case of preparation of trading and profit and loss account, we should definitely know what exactly our revenue is. If ours is a trading concern, then automatically our practices is to purchase the goods and to sell the same. And in the universal commerce practices, nowadays it is not required to purchase the goods in your own locality. You can purchase the same from far places, and you can sell the same at your place. Even nowadays, some business people are there, those who do not have any own godown even. So when we are measuring or thinking of our own revenue, definitely we should know that earnings of the business. What are the earnings of the business? In which way we can say that the business has earned revenue through earnings of the business. Number one is your interest on deposits or deposition. When we are doing our business, definitely we have transaction with bankers, and on the basis of our average deposition on completion of a particular month, definitely if we are in a favorable condition as far as our deposition with banks are concerned, definitely we will be earning certain incomes. That is a concrete revenue of the business, because the case of the business is there in the bank, and the bank has certain obligation towards being the custodian of the case, and it is the practices of the banks also to utilize the available cash in their finances or in their so many activities. So interest on earnings is also a revenue, and at the same time earnings of interest on liability, interest on drawings. Sometimes we would have taken goods or services or utilized the services of our own business, or you would have used the cash of the business for our own personal use, what is being treated as drawings. Instead of purchasing the goods from other business people, we should purchase our own item from our own godown or from our own outlet, and supposing we are not in a position to pay the bill amount right on the transaction, or right on the time of the consumption of goods or services, or whenever we are taking the money and we are not in a position to pay up the same immediately, that is being treated as drawings. And after completion of one financial year, if we see that the total drawings have not been paid fully or partially, so the remaining drawings are there with us, and at the same time the bank has the business has the liberty to take interest over it. And if at all the businessman is not in a position to pay immediately, it is the duty or responsibility of the honest businessman to give justice to the business, definitely to measure the interest on drawings, to give conscientious or ethical practices on his own account, and at the same time to his own business. That is called interest on drawings. And we know that when we proceed our sales, the total earning of the total sales proceeds are not being treated as our profit, but definitely that is being treated as a revenue. Apart from same, we can earn on interest on dividend. Interest on dividend. In a particular interaction, I have already described what are dividends and what are shares. We know that when an organization is not in a position to accumulate a huge amount of money for the entire activities one organization is going to undertake, naturally the businessman intends to accumulate the money in the shape of or from the source of shareholders. And if at all shareholders are also not in a position to satisfy or to quench the thirst of the business as far as finance is concerned, naturally the businessman is to go for creditors, and in the form of dividends. So debenture holders, who are they? They are debenture holders, and some of them are shareholders. Shareholders are directly attributable for their investment, and towards that if at all the company is earning profit, then or the business is earning profit, their claim is there to have the profit percentage. Naturally, it is also being creditor of the businessman. The debenture holders are also to earn certain amount of interest irrespective of the performance of the business, no matter whether the business is earning profit or suffering loss. But definitely the dividend debenture holders are to get their interest. So interest on dividend is also a revenue. Likewise, rents on our buildings, rents on rents on total, we can say our properties. So many things are there, and sometimes towards the wages is also being treated as earnings of the business. Wages to be paid, wages to be received. Then gains from the sale or exchange of assets. Sometimes business is to also undertake certain exchanges, and that is also business. But in exchange, the business can also earn certain earning, and that can be treated as revenue. Out of the sales proceeds, the entire money which is being collected from the sales is not the profit of the business. Rather, we try to measure the original cost of the goods. When we are materializing the sales, then automatically the earnings or the income of the business and total cost of the products and expenditure up to the sales execution, then the difference is called as revenue of the business. Likewise, we should know what are the expenses of the business. It is very important. Expenses, it is also to be treated very meticulously, because we generally commit mistake in this way. It is to be segregated, or it is to be speculated well what is exactly expense of the business and expense of the person or proprietor of the business. If the business is to augment its performance, then definitely certain expenses are genuine. So, what are the expenses of the business? Supposing if we are extending or diversifying our business to another town of our own state, then naturally sometimes we may not be in a position to go outside and to explore our business. We may keep certain commission agents on the basis of our consignment business or agency business. So if at all we are recruiting certain agents, then automatically we have to give certain commission. If the commission is being paid for the sake of the business, that is to be treated as the expense of the business. That is to be treated as expense of the business, because to earn or to increase the sales volume, we are trying to diversify our business to another city, to another locality, to another state, to another country nowadays, for which we have to definitely recruit certain commission agents on the basis of our commission, and for the sake of business, as because it is being spent or it is being given to commission agent, so it is to be treated as also expense of the business, and it is inevitable by nature. And apart from commission, so many things are there. Sometimes we may also take the help of underwriters. Who are they? Underwriters are generally of that nature, those who dedicate themselves to take guarantee or to give guarantee to the business people for their performance of the business. Sometimes they may go for joint venture, sometimes they may go for amalgamation, sometimes they may go for so many agreements are there, so many nomenclatures are there through which we can explore our business, or the business can explore its performance, for which certain expenditures are genuine by nature. If at all goods are going outside our country, and definitely we have to give certain expenditure for the shipment of the business, either by ship, or as because nowadays we are depending upon what very fast business, so naturally we can also explore the same to dispatch our products, or to give our services in various ways, and for which we may have to spend certain amount of money towards that, and that is to be treated as expense. Next, loss. What is loss? Losses are of two types. One is normal loss, another one is abnormal loss. Normal loss, in case of, we know that being trader, we have to think of such, suppose we are trading certain perishable goods, then naturally normal loss is indispensable by nature. If we have a hatchery business and we are collecting our eggs and we are sending the same towards various states, so naturally in case of eggs, in case of vegetables, in case of so many items are there which are perishable by nature, if it is not being handled carefully and meticulously, or in the way in which it should be, on the way suppose it is being lost due to its perishability, due to its risk, it is being lost, then it is called normal loss. And nowadays, if the business people are doing business very meticulously, then naturally they try to give the risk, or to shift the risk to other people, who are there? They are the insurance people. If at all, if all the goods may be of perishable or perennial goods, means which are not perishable by nature, then automatically it can also be insured, and in case of insurance people can take the risk and they try to recover or compensate the loss in some other ways. So when the loss percentage are being covered by the insurance or risk-taking people, risk-bearing people, then naturally the remaining loss after compensation is abnormal by nature. So apart from natural loss, sometimes some man-made losses are also occurred on the way. If it is being fired, sometimes it may be also by unscrupulous people, by theft. So many the possibilities are there through which the business can suffer either normal loss or abnormal loss. In case of normal loss, the business people try to equalize their cost in the way in which, suppose we are taking potatoes or eggs, and suppose you are purchasing 200 quintals of potatoes from West Bengal, and we are carrying the same through transport, and on the way, if at all we see after receiving the product at our own godown or our own outlet, if we are observing that our total receipt is 190 quintals, then we try to manage our loss of 10 quintals in the way in which treating the purchasing price of this 100 quintals are equalized with the purchasing price of 190 quintals. Of course, when we are taking the cost price of the potatoes, then naturally the original cost plus all the relevant expenditure, all the relevant expenses incurred on the way on the way to be taken into account up to our godown or outlet where we dispose of our materials. So it is the common practice of the traders to think of as if though they are receiving 190 quintals of potatoes at par, still they try to manage their accounts in the way in which they have purchased at the cost of that cost price which was exactly paid for or in consideration of 200 quintals of potatoes. But nowadays, due to the advent of so many things, or due to the improvisation of our civilization, we have treated or we have tried a lot to cover almost all the risk in for almost all the materials, maybe perishable or perennial, and we have tried our level best to minimize the normal loss as per our practices. And remaining in respect of abnormal loss, it is indispensable by nature, it is inevitable by nature. Sometimes, despite taking so many precautionary measures, it is obvious for all of us to meet this abnormal loss, maybe due to fire, maybe due to accident, maybe due to man-made theft or robbery or so many things are there. And apart from that, with the common practice of shifting the products from one place to another, it may loss are sometimes indispensable by nature. So naturally we have to keep up the accounts of abnormal loss on the way. Then definitely we should think of the net loss or net profit. Net loss and net profit. In respect of our trading account, already I have disclosed, or already I have interacted. Almost all the direct expenditure are to be accounted for in our trading account, and almost all our direct incomes to be accounted for in the credit side. And the difference between the debit side of the total direct expenditure and the right side or the credit side of the trading account, the direct earnings or direct incomings, apart from closing stock, then the gap or the difference between that is gross profit. So the next step is, in the process of the final accounts or in the process of making preparation of final accounts, we go for profit and loss account, and in the process of profit and loss account, we take so many petty things which are to be treated as the indirect expenditure of the business. Then only we can get whether the business has earned profit, if at all, if the indirect, taking all together into all indirect expenditure apart from our day-to-day expenditure or revenue expenditure of the business, if we are deducting the figure from the gross profit, then if the gross profit is more than the indirect expenditure, then naturally we have earned net profit. If the gross profit is less than the indirect expenditure, then naturally the business has suffered loss, and that is called net loss. And sometimes due to consistent loss of the business, particularly in case of net loss for years together, so many business tycoons on this earth have not been there in existence, and their total entities have been done away with, for which we can accredit, or we may say the total inability or inefficiency of the business is to be held responsible for that, and for which our unethical practice, or our unethical means not knowingly, not deliberately, due to our hazardous practice, due to our foolishness, due to our laxity, we may also suffer loss for years together, and for which our survival or sustenance in the business market or in the arena becomes impossible. Then we should definitely try to speculate liabilities of the business. Liability of business. In business studies also, those who are pursuing master in business administration or PGDBM, they should definitely know liabilities are of various natures. When some liabilities are of what current liability, some liabilities can also be dissipated for years together. You would have seen during your in your familial sphere also, you would have seen your parents or your guardian would have taken certain amount of loan from bankers or from financial institution, and they may be in a position to pay off the same immediately after completion of the function, or they may not be in a position to pay off the same immediately after completion of the function or after some years. So if it is being dissipated for years together, it may be your long-term liability. And when we are perceiving the same for the sake of our business, so many things are there. Suppose if we are purchasing the product on credit and we are having an agreement with the creditors that after completion of our sale proceeds or sales, we may pay off the same total liability immediately after completion of after disposal of the item, then it is of current liability nature. If the payment timing is dissipated for a long term, then definitely it is a long term liabilities. Assets, already you know that in our business assets are of various natures. Some assets are there which are directly responsible for earning of the business. Nowadays, the risk of assets are being minimized in a very tactical way, and the people, those who are having expertise idea without investing less assets also, they are also in a position to earn more and more. And in portfolio management also, some techniques or some strategies are being evolved by the human civilization to earn profit with a little effort of investment and assets automatically. So assets, what are they? Suppose we are purchasing land, that is asset. We are erecting building, that is also asset. If we are purchasing plants and machinery, these are also assets by nature. And apart from that, we may purchase vehicles, and according to the availability or according to the affordability of the business can have so many assets. In effort of accumulating all the assets, sometimes our business can go for liabilities. That is why we can say all assets of the business minus liabilities is equal to capital. And capital is also being defined as owner's claim or owner's equity, for which we see that there is an equation: assets minus liabilities is equal to capital, or we can say assets minus proprietor's claim is equal to liability, or we can say otherwise proprietor's claim plus liability is equal to assets. So here we can say that all the assets of the business has its own claim, and out of which the proprietor's claim, the income from the proprietor's claim is to be segregated, and the earnings of the creditor's claim, it may be financial institution, it may be simply supplier from whom we have taken the goods or services on credit, they are also to be taken as liability. So their claim out of profit is also to be taken into account judiciously, for which the total profit earned by our business asset is not the earning of the business itself, rather it is the proprietor's claim plus the creditor's claims. So liabilities are also to be measured very meticulously. property. Property in our personal sphere or in our familiar sphere, we reckon our buildings, our bank balance, our vehicles, so many things are there, and our stock and share, our equities, our bonds, our national savings certificates, our deposition with banks, our balances with so many steps and so many avenues are opened for the people at large in the societies to keep their assets or to keep their property in various steps. But in the business itself, so many properties are there. Of course, we can say almost all the properties of the business, if at all, if it is directly or indirectly attributable for earning the revenue of the business, then definitely it is to be treated as asset. But properties are of nature basically which are exactly fixed assets of the business, which are directly or indirectly helping the business in the years together to earn the revenues of the business. And we would have seen, or you would have seen, the properties are of various natures. Means deposition with bank is something different, and our land, suppose sometimes you would have purchased land, and we have seen that it is our experience and empirical knowledge says the land has no depreciation. Yes, very important. In case of assets and property, we should definitely know what is depreciation. The original word is depreciate, verb is depreciate, and from which depreciation word comes. After wear and tear use of the goods or tear use of the assets, the original book value of the goods or the assets decreases to some extent, and it is always kept in turn or in proximity with our time. When we are purchasing a vehicle, maybe it's a bike, maybe it's a car. After purchasing the vehicle from a particular outlet, when we are taking the same from the you can say showroom, soon after it gets taken from the showroom or the godown or whatever may be, its value decreases. And at the same time, after completion of one financial year, some portion of its value will decrease automatically after wear and tear use of the assets. And in case of fixed assets, it is depreciated. In case of leased property, leased, sometimes we may take the properties on the basis of lease. That is separate practice of the business. On basis of our leasing agreement, we can have certain property on lease basis, maybe of 10 years, maybe of 15 years, maybe of 50 years. It depends. Sometimes we can take the property on 99 years basis also, and we feel in the society that 99 years of lease is a permanent lease. It is not to be done away with by any cost. Anyway, in case of lease, it is called amortization. It is called, the term is amortization. There also, the value of the leased property also amortize in course of time. Gradually, after completion of 1 year, then naturally the book value of the assets get decreased. That is called amortization. In case of mines, quarries, it is called depletion. It is called, after wear and tear use, in case of assets, it is called in the course of wear and tear use of the assets, the value of the book value of the assets decreases. It is called depreciation. But in case of mines and quarries, we know that sometimes we feel that the natural resources which are there in our mines or quarries are unlimited by nature. Exactly, it is not like that. Though it is abundantly available in the nature, still it has certain limitation, and you would have felt gradually what we are in what way we are exhausting the natural resources. So naturally, after completion of 1 year, the value of mines or quarries decreases to some extent. It is called depletion. And so many things are there. We can say the nature of the decreasing order of the values of the goods properties are called depreciation. Originally, sometimes it is amortization, sometimes it is called depletion, and some new terms are also there, which you can able to know and measure subsequently after acquiring certain acumen in case of financial accounting. Yes, after total, when we are seeing that, we are observing that the book values of certain assets are becoming zero. We may not be in a position, or we may be in a decision to dispose of the old machinery, because due to obsolescence, we know that sometimes our technology, our state of art is improving day by day, and after the advent of computer and information technology and computer and design, and in the process of sophistication of our technology and know-how and our knowledge and improved quality in almost all the spheres, almost all the items on this planet are increasing their efficiency, either adding by additional service or by so many things. Sometimes we can go for reducing the cost, sometimes we may go for reducing the weight, sometimes we may go for fashionable things, or due to some addition of some qualities, so that it will be more fashionable and it will be having good sellability on this planet, or on this amongst the customers. So we go for research and development, and R&D division is not, of course, is not affordable by almost all the business on this earth. Sometimes big business people or the companies are at large, those who are capable enough financially to to recruit some scientists in that respect, or some social scientists maybe, some surveyors maybe, or some chemists maybe, those who may be treated as indispensable in the process of our research and development. We may go for sophistication of our technology, and we may go for a new plant and machinery, and automatically it is our common habit to dispose of our old or obsolete one, because its book value has become zero, and at the same time its efficiency has also been reduced. So naturally we may go for purchasing a new one, and we cannot dispose the same, throwing the same plant and machinery to ocean or to sea, or we cannot let it utilized by others. But if at all it is fit to be utilized by others, it may create or it may earn certain salvage value, or we can say Kovariwala's value. That is called salvage value. After completion of, suppose in case of 10% reduction of or treatment of depreciation, we can say that after completion of 10 years or a decade, the book value of the plant and machinery is becoming zero. So then also the book value may be zero, but the original value of the plant and machinery may be old of 10 years, but it can also be sold, or it can be disposed of with certain cost amongst some other, those who are less efficient. When those who are initiating their business now, suppose we are doing our business for the last 10 years, and our plant and machinery has gone obsolete, and we are not in a position to afford more, because it is becoming costlier, and we are not also stick to the same with the old fashion and technology. We may go for a sophisticated one or a newer one, for which we can sell the same, the less capable or the less lower capable, or the business owners or proprietors, those who are financially poor or initiating their business just now. So if at all, suppose we had purchased it with 1 lakh, and after getting the book value of ₹0, maybe the old plant and machinery can be sold, supposing it is in a position to earn 10,000, then this also this is also to be taken as an earning of the business, and this 10,000 can also be utilized for the. It would be a prudent practice of the businessman to utilize that 10,000 in a more efficient way in the business to purchase plant and machinery, better sophisticated way, and in a better improved quality, with an improved quality of products. So salvage value has also certain role in our business and in our financial management also. In case of portfolio management also, you will be, of course, in course of time or gradually you will be able to know in what way this 10,000 will be treated as an invaluable for the improvement of our business and its arena. Achha. In the process of finalization of accounts, you would have seen adjustments. We know that in our day-to-day life also, in our familial life also, our senior people, our veterans or our senior elders sometimes say that adjustment in life is indispensable, inevitable to have peace in life. So adjustment is also required in our management. Maybe it is financial management, maybe it is financial accounting, maybe it is bad management, or whatever may be the aspects of the business. But adjustment, and because adjustment is in life is inevitable, indispensable, unavoidable, likewise some adjustments are also inevitable or indispensable in our business practices. What are they? What are they? Which are unavoidable by nature? Definitely that is to be there. We cannot say that it is unbearable. It is to be borne. No matter if at all you are in a family, if at all you are on this planet, definitely you have to adjust yourself with certain things. Likewise in our day-to-day business also, certain adjustments have to be taken into account in our procedure of, in our process of finalization of accounts. What are they? Stock at the end. Stock at the end. We know that our business performance is to be measured in an accounting period. It may start from 1st January and it may end on 31st December. But generally, it is our common practice, in proximity with our budget, in proximity with our budgeting system of our nation, we keep pace with our government system, and we are bound to do that, for which we exactly measure our performance after 31st March, for which on 1st April we go for opening entries, and on 31st March we go for closing our entries. So naturally on 31st March at the stroke of midnight, at 12 midnight, can we say, or will we be in a position to dispose of almost all the items from our godown or from our factories, whatever may be? It depends upon our nature of business. If ours is a trading business, it is not at all possible on the part of the business on this earth to dispose of almost all the items on 31st March, particularly up to 12 midnight. At the stroke of midnight, we cannot see like that. Of course, sometimes exception may prevail, or sometimes if our business is having boom, it may be possible. But sometimes most often it is impossible to sell the same, and it is not expected of, it is not also usual practice. Because if you are doing that, it is to be observed that we are in a hurry, and that is not at all adoptable, or that should not be adopted in our day-to-day practice. So naturally stock at the end would be there in our godown, or if ours is a manufacturing unit, definitely we would have certain finished stock at our own godown, or and at the same time we would have certain stock as work in progress, as raw materials likewise. So stock at the end, in case of our manufacturing concern, stock of finished product and stock of work in progress, stock of raw materials. In case of manufacturing unit, stock of finished product, stock of work in progress, stock of raw materials. For example, if ours is a rice mill, the boiled rice, the boiled paddy rice is to be taken as a work in progress, whereas the raw rice, paddy rice is to be taken as raw materials, and after completion of boiling and getting the same milled properly, and we are getting consumable rice, that is to be taken as a finished good. So the paddy rice is raw material and the boiled rice is work in progress, and the milled rice, what is fit to be consumed directly, edible rice, is to be taken as a finished stock. And if ours is a rice mill, then definitely almost all the stock at the end is to be adjusted in our accounts, and we have to bear in our business, in our business premises, and that is to be adjusted in accounting also and in financial management also, which are exactly obvious or natural. And apart from the stock at the end, some other features are also there, which are to be adjusted by the businessman and which are to be borne by the proprietors or owners of the business. And sometimes we feel that our practices of the business should go as per our accounts. No, our accounts should follow as far as our practices is on. Some unethical businessman in the process of giving plea to their employees, giving plea to their debtors, giving plea to their creditors, or giving plea to the financial institution, they have the common practice. Our account says no. Our account says no provision for this. But exactly, if you have exactly acumen in accounting, financial accounting practices, you can claim that financial accounting should follow our business or should follow our practices. We cannot follow the financial accounting, because financial accounting is exactly has almost all the provisions on the practice on this earth, which cannot say this is practicable, this is not practicable. Okay, so that's all. In my coming interaction, I will be discussing the remaining adjustment which are indispensable in our day-to-day business and which are also to be kept in our provision in our financial accounting system and financial management also. That's all. Thank you. किसोड़ा हला जे बोला किसो तुम तो हला नहीं